This show was a real disappointment. That's because I had been taking stock on all the crazy climatic events we've seen over 2 years and are seeing nearly every day, and trying to construct a piece on it. Agriculture is a central aspect in this discussion, and I had hoped to gain something from the NewsHour production, but didn't. The program was narrow in focus and short on specifics and urgency. Still, it gave me this nifty intro, so I'm going to fly with it. The parochial treatment of the NewsHour program is a giant disservice because we and agriculture exist in a globalized economy. In the 80s, globalization rewrote economies worldwide. This is the world we live in. Climate change is rewriting the foundations that globalization rests upon, and global economies, our economies, are being rewritten yet again. The process is just getting started. Global trade is only viable with a large-scale, stable environment. Part of its strength is in a supply chain that can roll over local disruptions. A poor crop in one country is papered over by stable yields in another. The same can be said of manufacturing issues. Clearly, the era of this assumption has passed. A survey of stories from different parts of the world give a very different sense of the global circumstance unfolding for all of us. Each story has something to say about the others. Breadbasket conditions of the continental U.S. are shifting northward into Canada, yet Canada's geology is not well suited for agriculture. And already the viable extent of commercial fruit orchards has migrated northwards. Stone fruit require a cold snap in winter in order to blossom, leading later to all the fruit we enjoy. Climate change is stressing commercial crop viability and farm yield globally, particularly in India, China, and Central and South America. For those of us in the U.S. West, we've seen the most dramatic change in circumstance. An immensely abundant winter season has given us 3 or 4 times the annual snowpack and a reprieve from 2 decades of drought, erasing extreme drought in California and the Colorado River Basin. The superabundance of water and snow, however, is a mixed blessing. The Midwest has not been quite so fortunate. The Midwest is likely to remain in crisis. Their farms get their water either from rain or the Ogallala Aquifer. That aquifer is being rapidly depleted and does not regenerate. The water in it came from glaciers of the last ice age.
California's Central Valley produces a quarter of the nation's food, but a brutal winter, a parade of violent storms scientists link to climate change, has led to this. Acre after acre, more than 150,000 in all, swamped. For so many crops, a total loss.
It's going to hurt. It's a lot of money.
The estimated damage from the floods, $1 billion so far. Remarkably, an even greater danger awaits. Tulare Lake, which was drained a century ago and didn't even exist a few months ago, has returned with a vengeance.
Pakistan's flood last year is a mirror to the conditions now present in California and the U.S. West. The immense snowpack, intense summer heat, wildfires, and an unseasonable storm could produce extreme flooding similar to that nation. Pakistan flooded in 2022, and that flood submerged 1/3 of their nation. The damage still persists to this day, preventing farmers from raising crops.
Pakistan is going through its worst economic crisis in years, with inflation climbing to more than 30%. Last year's devastating floods, which destroyed many crops, have worsened the current economic turmoil. Food prices are surging, and so is poverty.
That flood was a product of severe drought, heat waves, wildfires dropping soot on the glaciers, which melted at light speed because of the heat, and a massive tropical storm that pushed the process over the top. So when I say that the immense snowpack in our current weather conditions in the U.S. West are worrisome, I'm thinking very much of Pakistan, maybe not at the same scale, but it really doesn't have to be half as bad to be trouble. Tulare County is also flooded and underwater, and Tulare Lake is expected to grow in size as the summer melt progresses.
And in the mountains above, one of California's largest snowpacks on record is starting to melt. Forecasters say rising temperatures in the coming weeks could prove catastrophic.
You kind of get an overwhelming sense of doom in a way.
There's nowhere safe enough.
This is where we house the milk cows.
Or large enough to move his barn of cows.
Is it possible where we're standing right now could be flooded out?
Yes.
Kings County Supervisor Doug Verbund says crews will finish the levee before the next major melt, but there's no guarantee it will hold.
Yeah, Mother Nature's in control. We're just, trying to put our finger in the dike as we go.
Tonight, all hands are on deck while their hearts are sinking.
We're a family farm. The family's been doing this for generations, and I'd hate to be the one that's at the wheel and we lose it all.
Farmers in the county have lost their land and livelihoods, and the state and nation their production. In effect, this is a mini Pakistan, nowhere near as severe, but for the people affected, no less devastating. They won't starve, but their farm is gone. As brutal as drought conditions have been everywhere, whiplash to the opposite extreme has been delivered in different degrees in the U.S., Europe, and China, and of course, Madagascar. Here I'd like to introduce some perspective from India and the kind of a heat stress that they endure yearly. This is much more common in the region and all over Asia. In fact, both India and China suffer this every year.
It's not just the impact on agricultural supply, which of course you've mentioned, but the fact that extreme heat conditions are absolutely killing people, making it harder to work, making it harder for them to earn livelihoods from where they can buy money. And so, yes, climate change has already been very severe. In South Asia, we've had
how close are we, or what needs to happen, or what could happen before we're just, a few steps away from a real massive catastrophe that can lead to massive hunger, massive starvation for potentially billions of people, a part of the world where so much of humanity lives?
Very, very close. In fact, I would say it's not even a few steps away. The trouble is that somehow people are just not taking seriously this very, very major crisis that is already engulfing us. The hottest April ever already, and God knows what will happen in May. And all of this happens, yet people are not taking adequate precautions, nor are we doing the right adaptation measures, either for cultivation or for basic production or for all of the work, manual work that remains still a very major part of people's existence.
Asia is the world's factory, and China is its giant panda. Their conditions of drought and massive seasonal flood follow a similar pattern to one we've seen in the U.S. West. The nation is no stranger to floods and freakish storms, but they are closer to Pakistan in numbers affected.
Since the second half of last year, droughts have persisted in many parts of China. This severe drought, recognized as a once-in-a-century event, has caused many rivers to dry up and reservoirs to reach record time for plowing. Many are worried that planting will likely be delayed due to the inability to irrigate the farmlands. The drought is particularly severe in provinces in southwestern China, such as Yunnan, Guizhou, and Guangxi. In Hezhi City, Guangxi Province, residents say that it has not rained for over 6 months. Fujian Province has also been hit by heavy rains. The floods caused 21 rivers in Fujian and other areas to exceed their warning lines. Bridges collapsed, dams broke, and villages were flooded. From May 6 to 7th, Xinluo District, Longyan City in Fujian was hit by a severe thunderstorm. Local residents have suffered heavy losses. According to Chinese media CCTV News, the disaster caused by heavy rainfall from May 5th to 7th has affected 497,000 people in 7 prefecture-level cities in Jiangxi Province, with crop damage covering 67,700 hectares and 1,100 hectares of complete crop failure. As of now, more than 120 households have collapsed or been damaged, with direct economic losses of 600 million yuan, approximately $87 million. The extent of the disaster still needs to be further assessed. In addition to Jiangxi, many parts of Hunan have also experienced heavy to torrential rain, with water levels in some areas rising sharply and local landslides and mudslides occurring. Roads in Changsha City were flooded, and a large number of cars were submerged. Hubei Province has also issued heavy rain warnings in recent days, and cities such as Yichang have been hit by heavy rainfall and hail. Zunyi in Guizhou Province has also been hit by thunderstorms and hail in succession, with many areas experiencing hail on May 5th, causing damage to crops and vehicles. The largest hailstone was about 40 millimeters in diameter, breaking this year's record for hail diameter. This is already the 4th hailstorm in Guizhou this year. Crops were smashed by the hailstones.
The nation is also struggling to expand farmland in the face of rising production needs. China has fully embraced globalization and has not been self-sufficient in food for a number of years. It relies on grain exports from India, Thailand, and Vietnam, as well as grain, fodder, and meat from the rest of the world. Drought on the Yangtze has forced hard choices for them between flood control, agriculture, hydro, industrial, and municipal water supply needs. And they face issues of crop yield like the rest of us. You might want to check where most of the things in your house and what you wear come from. Last year, low water conditions affected agriculture, city water supplies, manufacturing, hydropower, and supply chain transport for the 3 largest economies. South America also faces shipping problems in the Parana, and now the Panama Canal has been added to that roster. For many of these regions, this year will probably be a repeat of similar issues. So while COVID is a receding issue in the minds of many in business, climate is not going away. No part of the globe is a stranger to extreme weather, and unlike the past our economic order emerged from, it's now everywhere instead of occurring in one region or another. Globalization's strength had been conditioned on the ability of a disaster in one area being smoothed over by normal conditions in another. That era is fading away.